This is the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Neiman. If you're looking to generate wealth and passive income in the lucrative world of mobile home parks, you're in the right place. You'll discover solutions to the common legal and operational pitfalls and how to optimize parks to maximize income. Your host is in the trenches. He's a real estate attorney, financial analyst, and mobile home park investor and operator. Now, let's turn it over to Ferd Neiman.
Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd Neiman here again today with another episode of the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast. He's got another great guest. He's got an interesting story and a lot of good tips and tactics for everybody. Please help me welcome my guest, Pasha Esfandiary. Hey, Pasha, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me on. A big fan of your show, Ferd.
Well, thank you. Well, tell us more about your background and how you got an MH, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I think my story is a little unique in the sense that, I'm proud of this now, but I'm a college dropout. And so, after I graduated high school, I just knew college wasn't for me. I really got quickly into playing poker, oddly enough. And then so I played poker professionally until I was about 26 years old. And I remember living in Las Vegas and remembering that this lifestyle isn't for me. I knew I wanted to have a family one day, and I knew I wanted to build something bigger than what poker can really offer. And I decided right there and then I wanted to get out of it, and I wanted to go to real estate, which has always been my passion. Poker has always been a means to an end. So I went and interned for a few months for somebody who was flipping homes. He's still a mentor of mine today. And I did that for, like I said, for 3 months. And then I went back to Vegas and I flipped my first home, which actually was a mobile home. I even bought it in a, 55 and over community. And I didn't even realize that when I bought it, made all the mistakes that you could. And I still made $3,000 from it. And I was hooked, right? And I really used and parlayed the poker winnings and the bankroll into buying more and more real estate and really just understanding the scaling of that. I did that for close to 4 years before I moved to Los Angeles. And then I started doing land up construction. I did one flip and I realized there's this one area, if anyone lives in LA or knows this, but Mount Washington and Eagle Rock area was really in the path of progression. So I bought a bunch of land and I was like, I know I have to develop, and I had to learn how to develop while developing.
That's
tough. It's tough. I've always been the one that's always would bring on a partner who had the expertise.
Okay.
And I did that for close to 5 years. And then I went into multifamily because that was just the progression. And I went to all the seminars and I learned all the courses. I bought a few apartment complexes myself, and my now partners convinced me to buy my first mobile home park. And I was looking through it through a multifamily lens. I said, look, the rents are on top of market. I don't think we have a lot of growth. And they just simply looked at me and said, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, wow.
But they're really highly, super smart, super intelligent. And they know this industry like the back of their hand. And they said, we're buying this park. Would you like to join us? I said, sure. We bought that first park and I saw the cash on cash that was coming. I saw the tax depreciation compared to the multifamily. I saw all of these benefits and I really decided to go deep into it. Once I started learning the power of it by picking through my network and asking and picking everybody's brains, I just said, wow, this is an opportunity. If I was thinking that about mobile home parks, I wonder who else was thinking about mobile home parks this way. And I decided right there and then I said, hey guys, we have to keep going. And we started buying up as many properties as we could. And then one thing led to another, and we didn't want to turn off the pipeline that we had, and we just kept growing as a company. So it kind of happened organically, and that's where we're at now.
Nice. That's great. Now tell me, where do you buy your parks at? Are there any types of parks that you don't want? Like will you buy private utilities? Will you buy park-owned homes? What's your your preference of what you do and do not pursue?
I'm a lot more conservative. It probably shoots myself in the foot on the scaling aspect of it. But we do look for parks. First, the states are really kind of red states, mid-south, Midwest. And we want to stay in between around the $3 to $10 million range. And those are the parks that we go after. We don't like doing a lot of infill. We like buying parks that already have most of the homes on there. We will buy park-owned homes, but they have to be 90s and newer models. And so obviously to RTO them or sell them off as well. We have about a ratio within our company that we want to keep it under 15% for infills throughout
Okay.
our portfolio. And that's something that we look for as we're growing our business, and developing out the sales team and the infill team. I think that ratio can get bigger, but we want to fall into those problems.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good approach. Yeah. We were talking offline too. I mean, just the pros and cons of infill, they really slow down growth as far as scaling other parks because they take so much work themselves.
Yeah.
But if you do an infill park, you'll probably get a higher ROI on that particular property if you're successful. But your chances of hitting your pro forma, are at a greater risk. It's just there's generally more variance because more things can go wrong. So yeah, definitely at my parks that I've bought, those that clip exactly the pro forma are those that don't have infill. Those
Yeah.
do infill. Some of them we outperform. Some of
Hmm.
them we've trailed behind, and you gotta take more resources plowed at that park to catch up. And it's like, well, now you can't go look at a new deal. So it's like I've had to turn off the acquisition spigot at certain periods. Like we can't buy anything this entire quarter. We got to infill this one. We got to fix this one, etc. So pros and cons for sure.
Yep. I want to say onto that. I think, you're so unique. And I think that's how most operators should be, because most people are really, hey, I just want to buy this. I have investors, or I want to buy these parks, and don't understand that you really have to give it a ton of attention. You don't ever want to fall behind. Right. And that's really the scary part. When we look at a deal, we always underwrite for everything to be able to go wrong. But what I always try to tell everybody and other investors, not even in my own deals, is that if you find an operator where the deal has to go right and everything has to go right, those are the ones I would be afraid of.
Yeah,
Um,
no, good point. I
you
mean,
know,
that's why I've structured my syndications. We got investors in half our deals, and we've structured them such that we underwrite them as if it just goes okay. But
yep,
if it excels and we do much better, the ROI is going to be a lot higher for the total project, the deal level returns. So we get a bigger split. So we have another hurdle we have to hit, but
yeah,
we get our split, and if we hit a certain IRR hurdle, we get a bigger chunk. So it's like, look, if we don't perform, we're doing it for practice, and you guys are getting just like an average deal. But if we do
right.
perform, you're getting a way above average deal, but we're getting an extremely high ROI for
Hmm.
our time, but it's based on performance. So that seems to work. It seems to work well for fundraising because people kind of see our we're kind of yoked together and rowing in the
Yep.
same direction. Where it's hit or misses. If do you outperform? Do you underperform? And I had one deal was like really outperforming. Then we had big problem tenant and a couple tenants, and then it like just plateaued for a while. And it's like,
Right.
oh crap, you evict this guy. Well, now he goes to the next house. The druggies there. You got to evict that. And all of a sudden, it's like, how did we go -5? It's like
Yep.
one family of crazy people. Then took out 5 units. And then you got to demo something. It's like, oh my gosh, we were
Yep.
infill like crazy. And but so they can be a roller coaster. Just like anything else, I guess.
Yeah. Every park has its own unique challenges, right? And so I think, really coming into this business, you have to learn that every property, yeah, is a little, can be tough at times. I know we buy in typically C areas, if we had to really kind of classify it. But there's always going to be trouble tenants. Like, this is why. So, anyone who's going to do a pro forma or underwrite, you should always build in a lot of cushion, just like you do. And one thing that you said that I really love is that you incentivize your equity or your rewards with the investors. I think everyone should do that. That's something that we do as well too. Um, and so it's just a dual incentivized way uh, to
Yeah,
go
makes
about
sense.
this. Yeah.
Makes sense. You mentioned it a minute ago that you buy in kind of C or lower areas, and you mentioned offline you buy in tertiary areas. Why tertiary or secondary versus prime markets? I mean, obviously there's a pricing difference, but have you found other than pricing or cap rate there to be some benefits?
Yeah, I mean, uh, I think when there's less competition, you're always going to get a little bit of a higher reward. I was telling you offline that I at least me personally believe that this opportunity that we have to buy these, traditionally mom and pop seller properties, um, are going to be gone in 5 to 7 years. There's more operators like you and myself and everybody else now
Right.
who are buying these properties. So when they go full cycle in 5 years from now, they're going to be mostly from operators, right? And so most of the juice is going to be squeezed out. So this is why we go to secondary and tertiary markets, because it's a market that's fractured and there's less competition, even though a lot of people still want to buy them. And this is the way we decided to build our company because, we didn't want to go into multifamily and just get 14-15% IRR returns. We wanted to, those extra few points when you really kind of log it through, 30 years of investing is massive, that compound interest on it. So those few extra percentage points mean a lot. And this is the market we want to go after right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on everything you just said. We buy a lot of similar markets. We've got some parks in A markets, but can't get as many as we want in A markets. So we look in B
Right.
markets and C markets, try to cluster them and stuff for scale and for regional management type activities.
Yes.
But one thing I hope you're wrong on the 5 to 7 years, because
I hope I'm wrong too.
that's the time frame I said 3 years ago. So I've been wrong, or at least
Right.
we'll see. But I said, oh, people ask me, oh, probably 5 to 7 years. I
Mhm.
said that 3 years ago. So if I'm right, then we're running out of time.
Yeah. I think, for me, it's to keep the urgency up for this. And I was telling you offline, the reason why Evoke Capital even came about was only because we didn't want to stop buying these opportunities. We would regret it 10 years down the line of not getting these opportunities. And we would have been, man, I can't believe we missed out on that. And so that's what happened. So I hope you and I are both wrong, but I definitely want to keep up my urgency in what I'm doing.
Sure. I think there's going to be a second wave, not on the A parks, but on the B and C parks, a second wave of operator to operator, from failed operator to
Yes.
skilled operator. Because there's, and I've bought a couple parks like this, but I mean, I know several guys and gals that I'm like, they are so far over their skis,
Mhm.
and some of them have been clients, and I've tried to give them guidance, and they're just, I'm like, I mean, one in particular stands out where these guys told me, yeah, we're going to buy this. We're going to infill this much. I'm going to infill 20 homes in the first 4 months. We're going to
Wow.
we're going to do a cash out refi in month 6. We're going to get all our money back and put $1 million in our pocket. And these guys were 18 to 22 years old, had
Mhm.
never done a deal, had seller finance deal, no balance sheet. One of them, I think, had filed bankruptcy. So they did not have good credit. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, I personally cannot pull off that business plan from an
Mhm.
operation, and I personally cannot pull off that business plan and get in the bank to give me that kind of terms and that kind of refi that quickly. And I have more experience. I didn't tell them I'm smarter than you, but I thought that also. And I have more money, more liquidity, more net worth, and I can't get to any of those terms. How are you guys going to do this? And they're like, well, we're just going to work really hard. And then they proceeded forward, and you know how
Oh,
the movie
no.
ended.
Yeah, of course.
Didn't go well, right? And then, oh, by the way, there was a failing lagoon, and I mean, it's like everything go wrong. I'm like,
Oh, and a lagoon?
it's like all this stuff, and there's
Wow.
like several deals, and I've got several clients like that. Some of them former clients, I guess, at this point, but where I'm just like, I try to give you guys some guides, but like like it's some stuff's like it's not even my own self-interest. Like, guys,
Right.
you have to get a phase 1, or guys, you have to inspect that. Like, I don't sell phase 1s. I don't inspect lagoons. So I'm not telling you like you really should get your title commitment reviewed, pay your lawyer. Like,
Mhm.
this is me telling you, you need to pay a different professional. And then they're like, yeah, those are expensive. We're not going to do that. And
Yeah.
like, so
You
there's
know
not, so those operators already scooped up these deals in the
Mhm.
last 5 years, but those deals will come back around for a second round. And they're not stable enough to get tons of institutional grade interest.
Yeah, that's what you nailed on the head. That's what we're seeing a lot of right now too, in combination with the mom and pop sellers, is that other operators who took on too much that they can chew, and now they're coming back to us and they're like, we can't handle this. This is too much of an operational nightmare. Or multifamily investors who came into this thinking, oh, it'll be easy, and they see, I think people get tricked by the demand that is for mobile home parks. Yes, the demand is through the roof. I think we both know that. But the infill component is really hard to do. Getting somebody across the finish line, making sure they qualify, getting homes in, setting them, all the things and all the logistics that go behind all the manpower, all the paperwork is really, really tough. right? And
Yeah.
so, but the demand is there. I mean, we're and I'm sure you are too, massively inundated with leads all the time. And how do we process those, and how do we get it? And then, you know, I have a question for you. When you underwrite a deal, I'm sure it's market dependent. How many do you underwrite for infills? I'm talking about new homes. Do you think you can fill a
Well,
year?
that you're right that it's market dependent, so it totally
Yeah.
depends. And you say new homes, sometimes the new homes are zero, so it's new or used. How I look
Yep.
at them depends on the market. Um, I've got a market in mid-Missouri right now that I don't remember what I underwrote on it, but what we did was we brought in 20 homes in 1 year.
Wow.
I got a market in a smaller town, Illinois. I underwrote that we would do 6 a year,
Hmm.
and we're 2.5 years in, we've only done like 9. So
Yeah.
we haven't been able to move them as fast, and it's a nice park, this one in Illinois too. It's just, and we get the leads, but it's people like, "Hey, I got 500 a month to spend,"
Yeah.
and like, "We can't help you for 500 a month all in, and for a, $40,000, 2005 house, like, we just can't
Yep.
make it work." And lot rent's only, I think lot rent's 290 there. So not like lot rent's $500, but like 290 plus home payment, we can't get you in at 5. We're talking like 750, 850, some of the units 1,000, So infill is dependent.
Yeah.
I've one thing that I've been surprised on a couple deals where we've infilled like crazy. One deal in particular, where I think I did 62 homes in
Wow.
in the total by refi was 23 months. So by the time I did the CapEx, I
Mhm.
did that in like 14 months of actual like trying to bring in homes. It was
Right.
a great market, great park. So I mean, it's like we have basically doing one a week, and we buy them in like chunks of 4 or 6 or something. But like
Yep.
sales is like one a week, so it's just like crazy. It was great, but then other parks, it's like you get a sale a quarter. You're like, well, okay, so just trying to underwrite that is the challenge. I mean, it's kind of a roll the dice. Obviously, you can do test ads. You can,
Yeah.
do a number of things. Look at the, housing stats. Look at the income stats. You can assess what seemingly is the income or credit capacity of the residents by looking at their cars, look at the quality of the homes, things like that. But I haven't been able to nail it to a science where it's like this
Yeah.
is spot on. So that's why what I've learned to do is just um, underwrite a little conservative, but then give myself splits where if I overperform, I get the bulk of the profitability because I've overperformed, but I got to make sure I don't underperform.
Yeah, that's the most important key part. Yeah. Okay. I was just asking because we always have a component of used infill homes, but when it's the new homes for us is somewhat newer, but we don't even underwrite for any of the new homes in year one, and we do 7 in year 2, and 7
Yeah,
a year maximum for now as we're getting our systems to get better and better. And I think we're going to organically be able to grow into a higher number, but no, I just want to make sure we never fall behind on a pro forma number.
yeah. Generally, I underwrite zero infill in the first 6 months because
Yep.
I got this the transition, the capex, and all that. One thing that I've gotten a little smarter on is looking at the season of closing. So like I
Mhm.
bought a property in November and got cold, got snowy. Like we didn't get the road repairs all done. We didn't get the sub metering done. And I'm certainly not going to bring any homes in the first X number of months. But had we closed in different time periods, then I may have changed some of those CapEx projects and then changed some of the um this is in Iowa, so it
Right.
got cold, we got 30 inches of snow, right? So I mean it's crazy cold there right now.
Hmm.
Um so the season, the location of the park geographically from a weather, and then also the season of the year also can impact your infill and so on.
Yeah. I
One
mean,
one
these.
th- a tip that I've learned and gotten smarter on is we've started to underwrite some decreases in occupancy right out of the gate because we don't know all these tenant-owned homes that are their quality, but there always seems to be somebody, in some cases, 5 somebodies that when we show up and start enforcing rules and enforcing rent, they can't make it, and then they
Yeah.
get evicted, and then we get their house, and it's a dumpster fire, and we have to demolish it, and we're like, "Oh, it was 40 out of 60 occupied, cool, let's count on 40." It's like, "No, no, you're really gonna get 38. You're not
Yeah.
gonna get 40."
I
So
love
I've
I
made
love
that I
hearing
made
that.
that mistake before. In one part particular, we had like 6 or 7 people didn't make it. Dang, we're 7 in the hole, you know?
Yeah.
It took a while to get back up.
Yeah. We definitely always underwrite for everything that can go wrong as well. I love to hear that. I love hearing other operators who are conservative like that.
Yeah, you just get more conservative every time you're wrong, right? It's
It's
like
true.
at
You
some
just
point,
learn.
at
Yeah.
some point you're like, I mean, sometimes I'm like, I look at this, I'm like, we're so conservative on this, we can't even buy the deal. So like, all right, but we'll start there and like, okay, we'll ratchet it back up. Like, all
Of
right,
course. What's
this,
worst case scenario? What's middle case scenario? What's
yeah.
best case scenario? And then you
Sometimes
start
I'll look at worst case scenario. I'm like, wait a second, our expense ratio in year one is 70. In 10 years when we're full, our expense ratio is still 50. Like,
Yeah, that's
guys,
nuts.
if we're running it like that, we got a bigger problem. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we don't really need that much of this and that and the other. Like
Right.
I got contingency and I got miscellaneous cost. It's like, okay, I don't really need all that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, good question. Um, so what other tips you want to share with us? What do you guys, what else do you have that's maybe a special sauce that you guys are able to do from an operation standpoint?
You know, I don't know if there's a special sauce. I think we're just incredibly diligent with what we do. And I give all the kudos to my partner who's head of operations. I think we just have been able to make it so that we can take as much responsibility away from the property managers and get them focusing on the important things that are needed. We hire VAs from Latin America, which we find that works really well. Most of I would say at least half of our tenants are all Spanish speaking. So we have a lot of Spanish speaking employees. There's no secret sauce to this, Ferd. Anyone who's listening to your show understands the operations. It's just going there and doing the right thing. I think one thing that really stands out, and I think that one thing I'm incredibly proud of is that our first core value is people first. And if you treat tenants like real people who, are like you would treat them in a luxury A class, they feel that and they get the sense of that. I also, anytime we bring on a new property manager, I think it's really refreshing. I think it's the best compliment that we can get that say that, wow, you guys really care. Like, we're here to make money, don't get me wrong, but we actually really do care, and we're always going to do the right thing, and we're never going to cut any corners. And I think, and we also try to really empower our property managers to think like an owner. Hey, go. There's nothing that you can do that's going to hurt us tremendously. Go out there, make a decision, and if we need to make an adjustment, well, let's just talk about it. So that way they can keep doing it. So,
Yeah.
in collection with all the other things that you have to do when you get a property.
No, I think in general, that's a good strategy of empowering others at last piece in particular. But I'm curious how that works or what your management structure is. These VAs, what are they doing
Sure.
versus not? Because, we have some parks that we can't afford a full-time manager because it's too small or too rural. So we have a park greeter. Well, the average park greeter is less skilled than the average park manager. Obviously, the greeter's less expensive, but also
Yep.
that we give them less responsibility. So, I've done both, pros and cons of both. I'm curious how your on-site management team works, and how the VAs can help.
Yeah, we have a lot of parks that, have the same thing, our eyes and ears, essentially serving out notices, posting up things, collecting if we have to, sending us videos. So we really have a really system to just make sure that the property is running properly. And then our VAs will handle anything else, leases, payments, anything like that. We'll go through that, and they're all attached to
Who's
rent
doing
manager.
who's doing the sales and leasing? Is it remote?
Yes.
No showings.
So we have one sales manager that's located in Texarkana, which is our biggest portfolio. So he could show properties out there, but then we're going to bring out another sales manager who's going to be remote, right? And so what we really want to do is, again, just go back into the powering the property manager, is that they need to be the quarterback. They're going to get all the leads in, and they're going to quarterback, hey, we got these leads here. I need you to follow up with this person, and then have that person help walk them through the finish line. Because what I really love about this is that the demand is insane, and it's home ownership. And that's what I say. It's not a sale, just walking them through the finish line. They already have it. They already want it.
Right.
But you have to make them feel comfortable with the purchase. And I think that's really important, because most tenants that come and want to buy a new home, this may be their first purchase where they are signing their name to something, right?
Yeah.
You just have to have a lot of patience in that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them, they don't even want to buy, or they don't think they can buy it. They want to rent, and then they get there and they're like, "Wow, this is pretty nice." I mean, I tell our staff, like, these things should sell themselves. The value proposition of a mobile home compared to the Class C apartment is in any market is strong. Like,
Massive.
we got, you got a porch, you got a grill, you can have a dog, you got a driveway right outside of your house, you have a
Yep.
yard, you have amenities in common area. There's nobody on top of you, nobody on the left, nobody on the right. It's 1,216 square feet at $900. It's less than 75 cents a foot.
Yep.
The crappy apartment is $1.25. Where do you
Yeah.
sign? Here's where you sign. I mean, I used to sell them myself. I'm not all the operators syndicators have, but I've sold a lot of mobile homes. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's easy. You just get them there. Now, it's not easy getting them approved.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's the hard part. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I just sometimes these managers or greeters, I'm like, how can you not sell that house? I used to do like a traveling open house where I'm like, I'm coming to your park on Saturday and I'm taking your commissions with me. And they're like,
Right.
I'm serious. I'm like,
And they
you
get
guys got to
and,
sell
and
these
they're
things.
like, oh crap, like let me kick it into gear.
Some of them are like, oh crap. Some of them are like, yeah, whatever. So what I used to do is I'd go do a traveling open house and I'd say, you're gonna work with me and you're gonna job shadow me and you're gonna get the commission.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I'm just like, but I mean, you wouldn't have got it without me, perhaps. But it's like, look, then they really appreciate that. Like, dang, boss is
Yeah.
here getting us commission, but it's like that's exhausting. You know,
It is.
drive around and do one after the other.
Mhm.
Then you got
Yeah,
to do it. Then you got to do them at odd times and stuff. Like I got an open house at 10, noon, 2, and 8. So
it's a lot. And when you're dealing with a lot of people and a lot of energy and being mentally on, it's very draining. But I think this is why I'm excited for you, creating the systems and creating this so that this could help scale, right? And get those training programs without you
systems.
having to physically be there.
Yeah, systems and processes definitely necessary to scale. And my dad just gave me a book. I haven't read the whole book yet, but it's called 17 Reasons Why Your Company is Not Investment Grade and What You Could Do About It. And is it for most founders of companies, the founders got too much of the skill, too much of the value in the operation in them, and then nobody wants to buy that business from you because it's like, without you, it's not worth as much. So it's like, he told a story of like this guy had a massive organization, call it 750 people, but the guy was doing everything, and then he retired and the business fell apart.
Yeah.
So it's like, should he have been proud that he was that necessary? Or should he have been disappointed that after all those years of running that company, he never structured it or built it in a way to carry on the legacy of it and to continue on?
Yeah.
It's like, there's a lot of that happens, unfortunately.
It's tough. I mean, I think we're going through the same thing. My partner, we're asking him to take a step back. We hired an incredible regional manager. We have incredible park managers, but he feels such a sense of ownership, and he's done this for so long. And so we actually really just had that conversation about 30 minutes before this call. I'm like, hey, are you going to be okay with this? Because we have people who are ready to step up to the plate. And he's like, listen, it's like the analogy is, it's like my daughter's going to go to college when she's 18 and she's going to leave. Like, am I going to like it? No, but is it necessary? Yes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's just people, it's part of, if you run a company, if you work at a company long enough, but if you found it or own it in particular, it becomes part of your identity. So when people, I read a case study in Tiger 21, which is a group of high net worth individuals, and I'm on their e-blast list. And I read an article and they ask people, when you sell, I think you have to have 25 million or 50 million minimum,
20 million,
20 minimum assets to get in the door. And they added a study that said, when you sell your company, before you sold your company, did you think that it would be easy, medium, or hard for you to be done with it? And the average was easy and medium. Everybody was easy, medium. And then they did it. Most of them, they sold the company. They got maybe they got $100 million, and they joined it. And the study came out again, and they said everybody said it was hard. And some people said it was nearly impossible, and people are getting depression and stuff because they're like, so much of your identity was wrapped up in it, and you don't get to work with your old work friends anymore. They, some of them got laid off and they don't like you. Some of them are working for the new mean boss. Some of them can't afford to go to Europe for a 30-day cruise with you,
Yeah.
so you don't go to beers after dinner. It's like you lose some social contact, you lose, you were the boss, you were the visionary, and everybody loved you in your mind at least, right? And now you're rich and alone.
Yeah.
It's like, money can't buy happiness. It was like the part of the lesson there. I thought it was
Mhm.
fascinating.
It reminds me of I'm good friends with Bill Perkins. He wrote the book Die with Zero.
Oh, I
Um,
read that recently.
yeah, he's incredible, and I've known him for about 13 years. We actually went through an emotional intelligence course together at the same time for 100 days, and we just became really close from there. But he was just speaking. I was doing a keynote with him, um, or a fireside chat rather, and he talked about this same principle about how you get so wrapped up, at least in American society and culture, is that you get wrapped up in who your work friends are, who your work life is. And it's like you have to exercise the other muscle of getting outside of work and actually going and meeting new people and doing new experiences with people outside of your work social circle. Because if you wrap up your whole identity in that, it's not going to serve you well, and that you need to practice that new muscle of going out and experiencing life. And obviously, for anyone who hasn't heard of the book or read the book, he just talks about your arc of your spending curve of when you should be making it and how much you should be spending on experiences rather than just keeping it, because you can't die with it. You die with zero, no matter what.
Yeah, well, tell your friend I'd really like the book, and it actually is that and a couple. I read a lot of I read a lot of books and always have, but I read a lot about this kind of stuff lately, and that was one of them. And tomorrow I'm planning on taking the day off to go snowmobiling with my dad in Iowa.
Oh,
Something I haven't
awesome.
done in over a decade. We did it in our
Yeah.
youth. I got my snowmobile license when I was like 10, so I could drive in state parks. I loved this stuff, but I've been working so hard I haven't gone snowmobiling in over 10 years. He has the machines. Yeah, I just gotta
Yeah.
show up and do it. I'm like, we're doing it tomorrow. So weather permitting, it's getting warmer here, but so that's part of the thing. Is like, you don't need another dollar. You don't need another $1,000,000 at some
No,
point, right?
you don't.
You got enough to be happy and be healthy and take care of your family. Go go goof off once in a while.
Yeah. I think once you get to a certain point, and you realize that even having just like double it doesn't really change your lifestyle as much. It doesn't really change much for you.
Right.
So what's really the point at the end of the day? That book, him himself, just being a mentor in my life, have really shaped how I perceive life and the way I look at things. And like you, I take my father on a annual trip every single year because I quantified he may have 5 more good years of being able to walk around, travel across the world, and go on tour sites. And I said, wow, when you quantify that with your parents, you're like, oh crap, I got to do this. This is important no matter what.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. I read a book by Matthew Kelly. He's got read a couple of New York Times best-selling books, but he also is a Catholic writer. Some spiritual books, and he talks about Sundays. He goes, "How many more Sundays do you have?" And he goes, "Estimate how long you're going to live," and just back into him. And he goes, "How often do you see your father? You only go home for Christmas. You go home.
Hmm.
How many more Christmases does he have for you to get? Like, you know what? It's like maybe you shouldn't get in that fight at the Thanksgiving table. It's like, you know what? This is pretty powerful stuff. Like, you know what? He who dies with the most gold still dies.
That's correct.
So,
That's
uh,
100% correct.
so
Yeah.
that's cool.
Hmm.
No, that's good stuff, Pasha. Well, appreciate that commentary and getting off track, but that's a good discussion to have for sure. Related to
Right.
MH, 'cause MH is a busy business, man. It's tough. You work, 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 and you got to take a break sometimes.
There's something happening every single day, all the time, no matter what, 24/7, especially
Yes,
when you get a massive, a quite a sizable portfolio. So,
yep. I got a call last Wednesday from my construction manager that the main line of our park in Des Moines froze. It was
gosh,
like, "What? The main line? That's a big we gotta get
that's a
that taken
big,
care of." And
uh,
I just gave out, I think, like $12,000 of cold weather bonuses yesterday, these guys. They're like, "Hey, everybody that was out there doing it got $1,000 on top,"
right.
because it's brutal, but,
That is brutal. I love that you did that for them. That's
yeah,
amazing.
thanks. Yeah. Well, it's, it makes you feel a little warmer when you're out there. Next time, like, it's gonna be cold again 2 weeks from now, like, hey, I might
I
not give
know.
them another 1,000 each, but, like, that's a big number for a lot of these guys, and
Right.
Hey, extra we paid them hourly, of course, too, so it's like, hey, they
Mhm.
really got a nice chunk. What
I
other
love that.
tips or tricks, anything you wanna share before we jump?
I mean, I think the last thing, I think if anyone who is, I'm going to cater this to somebody who's just getting into mobile home parks, I think, rather than someone who's already experienced, is just be really careful. Be really careful in your underwriting and pro forma. Do not be afraid to partner up with someone. I think that was the biggest, thing for me to unlock our scalability in the business, is just partnering with the right people, or ask everyone. I always say in real estate, what I love about it is that everyone's willing to teach others. We're always willing to help the person that's trying to come up. And so just ask, say, hey, I have this deal. What do you think about it? Give me 5 minutes of your time. And most people are like, yeah, I've had plenty of mentors in my real estate career help me out with what I do. And then also, if you're going to evaluate markets like a multifamily operator, I would go get an education and just go surround yourself with whatever you can, whatever boot camps and books. And this podcast I know has helped me tremendously. I've listened to so many of your shows, and then start with education first. Get your numbers right, and then partner. What's up, buddy?
No, those are great. Those are great tips. Yeah, I definitely agree. Get smart as soon as you can, as fast as you can, as much as you can, because it'll save you tons. And then on the mentorship or partnership, yeah, it's win-win. I mean, I've had mentors in my life, but then in MH in particular, I was a mentor to another guy, and he brought me some deals. We made a lot of money together. I taught him a lot of stuff. He went out on his own. He's been successful on his own. Good for him. Good for me.
Yeah.
There's a win-win. If you got the right deal, you can make a partnership work.
That's
but
exactly right.
It's got to have the common goals and and so on. But definitely can be helpful.
One last thing I will say is that anyone who wants to get into mobile home parks and investing, and always are nervous about how much they need money, I always tell them, find the right deal and you will find the money. I promise.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good point. Great point.
Yep.
All right, Pasha, where can people find you if they want to look you up after this?
I think the best way is just go to my website, is just www.evokecapital.net. If you want to email me directly, just pasha@evokecapital.net.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ferd. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Neiman. Ready to learn more? Go to www.themobilehomelawyer.com for free resources and materials to help you succeed. If you love the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, give us your review, and subscribe today. Thank you for listening. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri nor the Missouri Bar reviews nor approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.